Welcome back to the little tutorial on the AutoRoute package version 2.3.0. This time we're going to be expanding the app we've built and looking at passing arguments. Okay, here's the link, it's hyperlinked there, passing arguments. Up until this point we've simply pushed on a second page or route onto the first one, and we've popped off the second one. That's been kind of it. But now we need to pass arguments. This is where things get a little more involved. And with the null safety difference now in Dart, I found, for me personally, it's a little bit tricky. Okay, so let's go over the basics. It's fun, yes. AutoRoute or AutoRoute will automatically detect and handle the page arguments for you. Okay, the generated route object will deliver all the arguments your page needs, including the path and query params. All right, so this is why we use AutoRoute. It could almost be called generated route. It's really nice to generate this code for you. Okay, yeah, there's a little example here of how to do that. This looks like the kind of like generated. No, this looks like what is actually done inside a stateless widget. So that's just one example. We're going to be doing our own. There are a few important notes. Okay, the only thing that's going to change really is we're going to pass in named parameters for our variables in our class, and we remove the const. So there used to be a const in front of the route name itself. We're going to remove that, but also we're going to have name parameters. Now you can use default values, of course. You should have required fields. Yeah, this is the important one down here at the bottom. Why does it keep highlighting everything? Okay, this. All of the arguments are generated as named parameters, regardless of their type. You might also know these as keyword arguments. Regardless of their original type. This type isn't referring to like a string or an integer. What it means is, like, even if you use positional parameters in your class, the widget you're creating, the generated routes, and when you invoke or call those routes, you will have to use named parameters. So you might as well just use named parameters to begin with. All right. So let's get into it and see what we've got here. The first thing that I want to show you is, remember how this is generated? We can call that that build runner method, okay, where it was like Flutter packages pub run build runner build. Now, because we're going to be making so many changes, I'm actually going to run the watch command. And instead of just doing it once, one and done, it's now just going to be live, and any changes we make that affect the routes will generate a new routes file. Okay, so I'm going to spin that up real quick. I've got my route, my app running here. Okay, so once that's ready, we'll make sure that there are no changes. Okay, so this is my routes file that's generated on the right. I have my first page and my second page here on the left. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's pass some arguments. So let's suppose, and we're just playing around here to get a sense for it. Instead of saying second route like this, let's have our actual route name as a variable. Okay, and this is what I like to do, is called error-driven development. So just change it. How, like, oh, I think it should look like this. Route name, I want to pass that in. Now I have an error, so let's option enter. Here we want to create a field called route name. Okay, so it does that for us. The one thing I don't like about this is this string. While it did infer correctly that we do want to pass a string into our text widget, that's the same thing, I think, as saying var and letting it figure it out, and we really don't want to do that. So let's prepend this with a final. Okay, so that when this is called, the value that it's invoked with will will fill in there. Okay, now you can either add a late modifier or create a constructor for final fields. This is the one we want. So also, I want to show you, if I get rid of this final again, so this was what originally the IDE suggested. If I option enter here, I don't get that constructor option. Okay, so they might fix this in the future, where you can specify final, but until then, let's do it ourselves. Now we'll create a constructor. Okay, for simplicity's sake, let's just do it the easy way. Okay, so here we have our field route name. We have our constructor. This is a const constructor for second route. And then this is where we're actually using it, okay? So declare it. This is initialized in the constructor, and this is where it's actually used for the screen. And up here it's going to be whatever we want it to be. There are some problems though. Let's find out what these are. So we can add a required keyword, because if it's not required, it could be null. And this is one way to do it. Okay, so now we have a required named parameter called route name. All right, but we have to pass it in. Right now, it doesn't know what that is because we got rid of our second route. Remember, we got rid of that. So how can we include that? Well, whenever we are in our first route, we need to pass that in. Okay, so I suspect it's going to be something like, now remember it's a named parameter, so we have to have a route name later. But actually, remember our annotated routes file like this? It just uses this information to generate our routes file for us. So regardless of whether we're even using the route, we have already done enough to generate a new file, generate a new routes file, okay? We don't have to come in here and say, oh, we've included arguments. We don't have to do it in two places, okay? We've done it here once. This is enough. It'll auto-detect what arguments we need and generate it. So I'm going to Command S save, okay? And now this is, it's watching, it's generating a new routes file, excuse me. I kind of just ignored that Dart analysis error that popped up. The reason being is I want this generated routes file to refresh, and then our application will know about it, and we should have the latest analysis of our code as soon as this is done. Okay, so again, I didn't have to change anything here. So that's a really nice feature. I don't know why first route suddenly showed up over here. Ah, I know why. The generated routes file gets deleted and then comes back. Okay, so we should have a new generated routes file here on the left any second now. Any second now. Where are you? There you are. Okay, let's put it back over there. All right, now the cool thing is even though it was like a deleted file and a new file, Git picks up the fact that there are just some changes. Okay, so let's look at those changes. It looks like now for our second page, what we're changing is we have this builder thing here, passes in some data, so it's kind of expecting some arguments, okay, and then it's returning that second route with that argument. See, route name, like so. Now again, this is that top routes file or routes class. The two I'm interested in, I haven't made any changes to first page. It's really this second page, okay. You see how it's adding those args there, second page args. And then down here, there's a class in and of itself. See that one there? Command click, it goes down here. So it's a class, just basic class. It has a const constructor. It's requiring it here, just like it was over here where we declared it. And it has its own field or property as well. So that's kind of cool. All right, that's all that changed. Now we should have some errors because we haven't passed in that value yet. So let's go look at our Dart analysis. Okay, and this is all going to be, I can't see the location because of this thing. First route.dart. Okay, so it's where we're invoking or calling the route itself. Okay, the constructor being called isn't a const constructor. So what I noticed is whenever you are passing in an argument, that argument can vary based on what's going in the application. Are you making a call to Firebase and bringing back a user's name or profile image that could have changed? It can't be constant at the time of compilation. So we get rid of that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it the other way by using the IDE. Okay, there's two suggestions here. The first one, these are actually independent of each other. So there's that one. Okay, now let's do this again. Add the required route name argument. Okay, so now instead of fully spelling out second route, let's do it this way, like so. So when I save, okay, it's thinking, uh-oh, it didn't like that. Oh, it does like it. Okay. We're on our first route. Open the route. Uh-oh. No constructor second route with matching arguments. Class second route. Okay, maybe I just need to rebuild. So earlier I just did Command S for save. You might have to rebuild when you have big changes. Okay, so it regenerated over here. Let's open that route. Okay, and that's what it was. Okay, cool. So it looks like it works. So to recap real quick, I'm going to get rid of this so it's not confusing. So we replaced second route, the hard-coded string, with a route name. We created a final field for our stateless widget, and then when we construct it, we require it. If you didn't require this here, and you said this is optional, there's another different way to handle that as well. We don't have that required keyword. We're going to say, you know what, it actually is optional there. So as soon as you say it's not required in the constructor, you have to declare it as optional. I think that's how people say that in Flutter and Dart, that this is an optional string route name. As a result, because that's optional, we have to give it, let's do it in all caps so we know. We have to give it like a backup, okay? So that's how I'm doing that. And I just did Command S, so I'm saving. I didn't change anything in first route, so I'm still expecting it whenever let me restart the thing entirely. Okay, when that comes back up. Okay, so regardless in my second route of putting this little fallback thing here, it's still using this named parameter. But if I don't put that in there, okay, and now I save it, what's going to happen? I'm kind of expecting it to, when I navigate over there, to have an all caps second route. That's what I'm expecting, okay, because it's not required. I shouldn't have to put that keyword argument, that named parameter in here. Just for good measure, I'm going to restart that entirely. Okay, waiting for it to finish. Okay, let's see what happens here. Open route, and there it is. Okay, so that's a good way to have this fallback. I don't know if that's what is meant by default values. I ran into an error earlier where I tried to have like a default value here. I forget even how to do that. I just have some gibberish. Okay. So because we're declaring it there in the constructor, we shouldn't have to have a fallback here whenever we're using it. But then we do come, okay, so we're saying, hey, I have this default value there. Trust me, it's going to be there. So let's rebuild our app now. Okay, this should pop back to the first page. Okay. We briefly see some Dart analysis errors while it generates. Okay, we pop back to the first page. So now we're ready. Okay, look, null check operator used on a null value. So anyways, maybe I'm doing this wrong. Yeah, comment down in the comments if this isn't how you provide a default value to a named parameter in Dart. I thought it was, maybe it's not. So for now, if I want a default value, I am going to put it here. Okay, and save that. Yeah, so now it reloaded it like so. I should be able to go back and go forward. Oh, now it's ASDF. Okay, that is weird. What just happened there? Because I totally removed that. Interesting. Okay, let's go back. Maybe let's just stop it. Okay. So let's say weirdness ahead. Okay. And then again, I'm going to bang this route name like so. I'm declaring that default, so even though I don't pass anything when I invoke it, it should be okay. So I'm going to save that. It says it's reloading. I'm going to go ahead for safe measure and just stop it. Okay. Play from the beginning. So now, kind of like we saw that ASDF earlier, I'm expecting weirdness ahead. Okay. Again, this is just weird to me because I'm not as experienced in Dart. I'm still migrating from Ruby to Dart. So let's see. Let's see what it does. Okay, while that's loading, let's go back to our documentation. Yeah, I think we've covered most of the things. Default values are respected. I think we're going to see that. The required fields are also respected and handled properly. Okay, I believe that. The last thing, I guess, before we go is I want to show you that even if you do positional arguments, that in your class definition, that when you invoke the route, you're going to have to use named parameters. And it doesn't give you any type of warning. Maybe it should give you a warning. That's what we might expect. But let's just see later what it does. Okay, I think we're back. The app loaded, and I want to show you what happened in the generated routes file. So over here in my constructor, there's the default value. It puts it in the generated routes file, like so. It also shows that this optional route name right here. Okay, so there's a little like duplication, but at least it's generated. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Yeah, so when we say open route, weirdness ahead, there it is. Go back. Okay, so that feels good. This is a simple way to pass arguments into the second page. Okay, I want to show you one last little bonus feature that is kind of interesting. So earlier on my second route, I had this as an optional, and we were doing things down here with the fallback value and everything. And I was rebuilding and making some changes, and I got to the point where, like, even stopping and restarting the application, I kept getting this this error: the argument type string optional can't be assigned to the parameter type string. So even though I've like made all the changes, it still is just wonky. I'm not sure why it's doing that. But anyways, it's not letting me build the app. So what I want to do is, instead of running the watch just like that, there's a flag. Let me see if I can find it. Let me do --help. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I think this is the one we want to use. So we want to use delete conflicting outputs. I'm going to copy that. I think it does it automatically when I highlight, but I'm just going to do that. So by default, the user will be prompted to delete any files which already exist. Skips the prompt and deletes the files. Okay, so let's see if that works. I'm going to try to run this again with that flag, delete conflicting outputs. I just want to build it once. So instead of watching, I'm just going to build. And maybe there's a conflicting output, something with this build runner that's causing the generated routes file to goof up a little bit. I'm not sure, but this is the command I want to run and see. Okay, so I ran the build command with delete conflicting outputs. It said it succeeded. So that should have worked successfully. We should have a new generated routes file here. All right, everything looks good. Now let's try to build the app. So it looks like it was able to build the app. Let's just make sure that we can go to our second route. There it is. We've specified it there. Everything is looking good. Okay, great. Is command option T? No. Yes. No. Okay. Let's. So that worked. Let's commit our changes. Git add -p. Let's get some real estate here. Okay, there's our second page args in the generated routes file. Yes. And then let's class second page. Okay, good. Okay, yep, I like that. This is where we're invoking it. Yes. And this is where in the actual widget we declared the property, the constructor, and we have a dynamic route name that we can put in there. That's great. Cool. Okay, so passing arguments to route. So we had here the generated routes file. I'm just going to say the top level stuff. So declared a field and required named param constructor. And then, like, we use the field later. I don't think we need to say that. But then we removed const when called from first route, and then we passed in the value when called from first route. Okay, I am good with that. Let's push that up, and that'll be the starting point for the next video. All right, thanks for your time.